Three different ways you can draw inside a shape without affecting the outside area, giving your artwork that extra flair. And remember that these techniques are universal to any drawing application you use, whether it's Procreate, Infinite Painter, or even Photoshop. And in the end of the video, I'll show you how I created this sweater using one of these techniques, so stick to the end of this video. Alright, let's jump into our canvas. So this is the shape we are going to work with, and let's start with the first technique. The first technique is using alpha lock. So what is an alpha lock? Alpha lock is a feature that locks the transparency of the layer so that you can only paint on the pixels that are already filled. Simply select your layer, tap on it, and choose alpha lock from the menu. You can see this lock icon indicating that the alpha lock is on for this layer. Now watch as I add details and textures within the boundaries of our shape without worrying about going outside. By the way, the texture brush I am using is the fabric brush from my realistic texture brush set. You can find the download link in the description. Okay, so now you know how to use alpha lock, but one thing to keep in mind is that the alpha lock is a destructive technique. By destructive, I mean that we are making changes directly to our shape layer, and after applying the texture we cannot edit the shape. But our next technique solves this problem. Clipping mask. Clipping mask is a feature that clips the content of one layer to the shape of another layer below it. To create a clipping mask, create a new layer above your shape layer. Tap on it and choose clipping mask. You can see that a clipping mask is slightly indented and there is a small arrow pointing toward the base layer. Now anything you draw on this layer will only be visible within the pixels of the layer beneath it. And you can create as many clipping masks as you want. You are not restricted to only one layer. This method provides flexibility as you can easily experiment with different textures, shadings, details without affecting the original shape. That was not possible with the alpha lock. It's like creating a digital stencil for your artwork. But still, you can run into a small problem with clipping mask. Let me tell you. Let's just assume that you have created a shape within a shape using the clipping mask, and then you want to add the texture to the inner shape, but you cannot add a clipping mask to another clipping mask. It will always clip to the base layer. That just doesn't work. So you have to use alpha lock on the inner shape layer for it, and that's a destructive way. So what's the solution? The answer is selection. The third technique involves making a selection of the base layer and then drawing inside that selection. Selection is a feature that allows you to select a specific area of the canvas and modify it. To activate the selection, tap on the shape layer and then choose select from the menu. It will make the selection on the canvas equivalent to the shape we selected. You can see the dotted lines around the shape indicating the selected area. You can make it more visible with the options. Now we can do anything within this area on any layer we want. After making this selection, we don't even need the base shape layer. The selected area is completely independent of the shape. Now going back to the problem we were facing with clipping mask. As we are working with normal layers using the selection technique, here we will create the inner shape within the selected area. Then we can easily create a clipping mask over the inner shape. Or going a step further, we can make a selection of this inner shape also using the same selection technique, and that's why this is the most versatile technique to do it. Feel free to experiment with different brushes, colors, textures to bring your artwork to life. And there you have it, 3 fantastic techniques to draw inside a shape to elevate your digital art game. Whether you prefer alpha lock, clipping mask, or making selection, these method provides endless possibility for creativity. Now let's look at the sweater I showed you in the beginning. I used clipping mask to make it. Let's see the layers one by one. So I started with applying the texture on the entire shape. Then I created the border of the sweater. It contains 3 layers enclosed in a folder. First are the dark shades with the multiply blend mode on the layer. This layer also contains this dark part. And then these are the highlights with the screen blend mode applied on the layer. Now let's look at the shading of the sweater. It basically consists of 2 parts, shadows and highlights. So this is the shadow layer with the multiply blend mode. And this is the highlights layer with the screen blend mode on the layer. So this is how I shaded the texture on this sweater, and if you want the full shading tutorial of the sweater, then let me know in the comments. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. If you found it helpful, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe for more digital art tips and tricks, and press the join button to become the member of this channel. See you guys in the next video.